Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us red. What time is that coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters, the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. Another pre-recorded show for you, but it's George, Mitch, Steve and Stu who join us. Good evening, chaps. Good to see you, and let's start the show just by looking back on last week's big win against Chelsea, George. Newcastle 2, Chelsea 0. Described by many, including us, I think is the biggest game of the season so far, and a lot of people seeing it as a cup final kind of attitude. The fans turned up, the team turned up, 2 goals, a clean sheet, and another step towards Champions League football with 2 games to go. And of course, the results at the weekend as well. Leicester, of course, doing us a favour with Nottingham Forest, with grabbing a point off them. Arsenal 2-0 down against Liverpool at one stage, grabbing a point. Who thought we'd be looking at second place, but we are. Aston Villa, though, managing to sneak a win at Bournemouth, probably their toughest game of the last 3, managing to get a 1-0 win down there. But Newcastle's where, you know, what matters. We managed to get that all-important 2-0 win against Chelsea, opening up a gap, increasing our goal difference again, which could play a pivotal role. And what did you make of that game on Sunday, George?
It was magic. It was everything we wanted it to be. It was a big game, and like in the cup final, the team didn't just turn up, but they played very well indeed. That first 45 minutes was as good a 45 minutes as we've seen for a very, very long time. And I've got to, Eddie Howe sometimes get criticism for his substitutes and all this sort of thing. Eddie Howe needs lots of praise for the way he set us up on Sunday. because we were all debating last week about who would be out. Would it be Murphy? Would it be Barnes? Would Gordon come in? Would this? I don't think anybody expected that all three would still be in the team, and that he would shovel the back three and because of a calf injury to Trippier. But he did it, and it was magnificent. And the other thing is, for me, was that it strangely released Dan Burn, because the way in which Dan Burn was obviously set up to chase Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer was out of the game from the kickoff because he couldn't move without having Dan Burn on his shoulders. So it was partly won in the dressing room. Mystery for me was Chelsea came out like Crystal Palace did. They didn't seem to have a plan at all. They didn't have an out ball. They didn't seem to be set up to cope with our press, which I found incredible when you think of the plaudits the manager's been getting. And they just were overrun. It was no surprise when the early goal came, because every time Gordon or any of the winners got the ball, they were in absolute disarray. So the only, not even a downside, the only mystery for me was that it was only 1-0. I'm sure I must have asked Steve Hasty 20 times before half time, is it still only 1-0? Because there was so much on top. It was absolutely magic. Some great football as well. Lots of good performances. And to play Jacob Murphy like that as a like wing back stroke, whatever he was, he did a fantastic job. He did a lot of hard work and contributed going forward, and was involved in helping to get the goal that mattered. Overall, it's difficult to criticise anybody. The changes half time was predictable because Chelsea reorganised and reorganised in a way which you'd expect to smother what we were doing. But although they had plenty of the ball, I never once felt that we were going to lose that game or even lose a point. And the climax of that second goal, to see Big Dan Burns standing like the angel of the north, waiting for the cross coming in, as though Chelsea didn't know he was there. And it didn't go to his head, it went to his feet, and he trapped it and played it off to Bruno. And I gather he was miffed because Bruno didn't play 1-2, but he wasn't quite so miffed when they picked the ball out the back of the net. It was just a superb way to finish it, thoroughly deserved. As usual, lots of stars around the pitch. In football terms, I would normally have said that Tonali man of the match, but I have to go with the on-screen pundits this time. They picked Dan Burn, and I think rightly so. He was just monumental. He also revealed his football boots, in my opinion, yesterday. There were twice he played long balls, Shaw style, which were out of this world. One of them with the outside of his right foot, for God's sake. And if that had been Fabian Shaw, the crowd would have been singing, "Ooh, Fabian Shaw." Well, it was get it in Dan Burn for me. It was great. And I don't know if all this cup final stuff and his England selections given Dan Burn more confidence, but wherever it is, great, because he was monumental yesterday, absolutely outstanding, and a thrill to be at that game. Crowd was at their best. The war flags started at the beginning was at its best. It was a day to remember, and one of those days when you were glad to be there.
What do you make of the referee, George? We often talk about the referee.
Oh, do you want? I was hoping not to have to talk about officials, but you can't help it. Bloody awful. I don't know why they have assistants anymore, because frankly, the one that was just below us watched a number of really serious fouls and didn't even flutter his flag, never mind put it up. And then the referee to even have to go to the VAR for that sending off. Where the hell was his eyes? What was he doing? You could see the centre forward not just getting his elbow ready, but he looked at Shaw and he clenched his fist, and you could see where it was going. And if he had to get VAR to tell him that, And I mean, he didn't just go and look. He looked and looked and looked and looked for about 5 minutes. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, VAR is supposed to be helping us. Since it came in, the standard of refereeing's gone backwards. And I think that's because they're relying on VAR to do their job. But he allowed some atrocious fouls to go throughout the match. You know, they had 10 men on the pitch at the end. Chelsea were very, very fortunate. There were one or two really serious bits of foul play. For example, and the pundits don't help either. On that occasion when Gordon ran through into their penalty area, if that fullback didn't push Gordon in the back, I'm a monkey's uncle. It was a nailed on penalty. It really was, and yet didn't even raise an eyebrow with the referee. So yeah, it's sad to talk about officials again, but it's what we're living with, isn't it? It's the standard of refereeing in the Premiership at the moment, and it's abysmal. It really is, and every now and again the pundits will remind us that we're getting some of the top referees. So God help us if that's the top ones. They can keep the poor ones and send them into non-league, because there's some dreadful refereeing at the moment. Absolutely awful. And some of the people at Stockley Park need a lesson as well, because this anonymous group of people that sit in a hut at Stockley Park, it's time they were made to talk. Like I keep saying, like they are in rugby league. Go and watch the things of Magic Weekend from last weekend, and watch their the equivalent of VAR, and listen to the referee talking to the people in the box. Listen to the referee talking to the crowd. Ours is anonymous, so you don't know what the hell's going on. So it's bound to raise eyebrows of favoritism and so on with certain teams. So yeah, you're right to mention it, Steve, because he was absolutely awful.
Okay, Mitch, your views on Newcastle United's win over Chelsea?
Not like that, is there? Summed up really quite nicely. But I will add. I think let's start with the crowd, and I think Craig Hope mentioned it on Twitter. There are not many grounds that could take a Sunday lunchtime kickoff and turn it into an atmosphere like a Wednesday night under the lights. And that's War Flags and us as a fan base, and what we are able to do when St James's Park becomes that horrible bear pit where people say they go there and they celebrate throw-ins like it's a goal. They celebrate tackles like they've just gone one up. And it's a horrible, nasty place to go when it's up for it. And that's what we did. And I think, it does make you wonder, where does this all come from? Is how the team and the fan base interact and the crowd interact. It becomes a synergy. It becomes bigger than the separate parts. When it clicks, it can be the most ridiculous asset. And it must be, as a player, the play in front of it, be phenomenal to have that at your back. And you saw a little bit of it from Dan Burn and Bruno in particular, joining the crowd up at times and getting involved. So that was spectacular. I thought we were efficient without the ball. It was interesting. Their sending off actually played into it to help them a little bit, because what it did was it forced them to play Palmer almost like a false nine, which took them away from Burn a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think it took us a little while to adjust and adapt to that. But they had a lot of possession without really doing anything, and it never really looked uncomfortable. They passed it around a lot, sideways, backwards, but not really in a threatening manner. Yes, I don't like to talk about the official after a great 2-0 win at home that secured the Champions League, but he was another one that was inconsistent, poor, far too reliant on VAR at times. That challenge from the striker, if that was one of ours, I would be livid. I would be livid at the player. How stupid are you? In this day and age, you cannot make a challenge like that where you look at the player and then bury your elbow into his face. You can't do that now. Maybe in my dad's day, you'd get away with that as a producer.
You wouldn't.
In my day, you never got away with maybe a yellow card or a stern talking to, if you were lucky, if the ref wasn't paying attention. And nowadays with VAR, and you make the body language that he made, and you look at the player, and then just bury your elbow. And again, I don't know what VAR took so long. Last week they were looking at the bloody penalty to see how many fingers has the guy got on the ball? What was the time that took to work that out? This week, was it how deep is his elbow into his eye socket? Was that what you were trying to measure? I don't know how many angles they needed to see. I don't know who you guys had on. I guess it would be Ali McCoist was one of them with TNT.
Yeah.
But
I think it was, wasn't it?
Aye, but we had the Keys and Gray at half time. Even Keys and Gray were going, why do you need to look at that 6 times? Why do you need the wide angle? What are you looking for? That's a red, and it's a red all day long. And if Nicholas Jackson was one of our players, I will be fuming at him because he's just finished his season early, and probably really hurt their chances of Champions League qualification. But I think, moving away from that detracts from a really good 2-0 home win when the pressure was on a little bit to deliver. And boy, did we deliver. With an altered team, with more injuries to cope with. And he's been doing that all season. And I thought the changes he then made and adapted in the second half were sensible. I can't say that the road will up because I never really felt terribly threatened. But at the same time, it would have been nice to have got that second goal a lot earlier. It would have made the whole process a lot more comfortable. But you take the win, you take the 3 points, and we move on. Now we've got to go to Arsenal with a very interesting game in hand, a game to play. And we've said all along, all we want is for our destiny to be in our own hands. And it very much still is, probably to a bigger end game than we ever thought that we could have had 5 or 6 games ago.
Got to ask you, Mitch, because you probably see things that maybe our untrained eyes doesn't. Botman, did you think that was a precaution, and it was just it was a big game to bring him back into, and they've eased him, they've eased him in. Now they've given him a start. Do you think there was any reason to have any concern?
They were talking about micing something up at half time. Mm-hmm. And again, you've got a player who effectively played 2 games on a knackered cruciate. And this is where you've got to sometimes get hold of professional sportsmen and rein them in. They are different. You talk to any sports physician about dealing with professional level athletes, and that when they're at that level, they seem to have different pain thresholds and abilities to play through injuries that would have you or I in bed for weeks. So they do need handled with care. So I think, particularly given his history, if they're listening to his history, and again, history of injury is the best predictor for future injury, if they've had any concerns, they've been wise to pull him at the right time. Because for me, the logical substitution would have been Shea, because he was on a booking. Don't give the referee an opportunity to level it up. But if they were worried about him, he put a good shift in for her. But if he was icing something at half time and they wanted to be careful, bearing in mind we're missing even more bodies, and it's not clear how long Trippier and Willock will be missing for, it was a sensible move.
Okay. Stu, you were leading Mitch astray the weekend. How did you do? Did you break any records?
Possibly. We've just worked out before that from the first drink to the last, there was 52 and a half hours. And in that 52 and a half hours, we drank for 31 of them. So it was, and it wasn't a slow pace either, hence the throat. You know, it was all pumps to, well, literally pumps with the Jaeger,
Yeah,
but all hands to the pump. So, but as you know, sorry, excuse me, I'll have some. As you know, I watched the game with Mitch, so I'll probably echo a lot of things he says. So I'll go down a different tangent. I agree the Jackson challenge was cowardly. I called it in real time. He looked at the man and then led with his elbow, and that's cowardly for me. The bookies don't often get things wrong. Mitch can tell you my little story about the bookies for the second goal, but Newcastle are now 25-1 on to qualify for the Champions League, whether that be second, third, fourth, or fifth. So that's good news. But I want to change a different tangent and talk about two games. One at the start of last season, and then the game we just played against Chelsea. The one at the start of last season was at Liverpool at home. They went down to 10 men, and they managed to get the victory. And it shows how much we've progressed as a team, like how fast learners they are, because they look comfortable. As Mitch said there, they were at ease without the ball. They were well drilled, and there was no panic. And even when Chelsea had chances, you still felt Newcastle were in control and they could go and win the game. And they did. It was for me, it was a composed performance. I agree with George. The first half hour especially, they blew them away. And it was probably similar to what we talked about on the professionals last Sunday about what Simon, the Chelsea fan, said. You know, like you go 2 goals up with your press and everything else, and we're out of the game. And I think had we got that second goal that our performance had deserved, that could have been a 4 or 5-0. But in the past, we've been caught in two minds. Do we go and push and get exposed on the break, or do we sit back and invite them on? And they seem to be comfortable letting them come to us. But there was that wall. There was the 2 banks of 4. And Chelsea had they tried everything they could to drag us wide one way, wide the other way. But I just thought they were so well drilled. It's a credit to the coaching staff and to the players. And for me, it was comfortable in most parts. But I'll pass you back to Mitch so you can explain what happened for the second goal, if you can remember.
Well, I can remember. You turned to me with about 2 minutes to go, and he says, I'm off for a lucky piss. Bruno's going to score the second. And while he's at the toilet, Bruno scores the second.
Oh, God.
And he comes back smug as you like, because he just put a bloody bet on before he went to the toilet for Bruno to score the second at 33-1.
Who needs a borough lad on here, eh? I'll give you the tips.
Brilliant.
He'd come back from the bog looking like a bloody peacock with his feathers up, you know. How the hell did you do that?
It was funny because I was coming out, I heard the cheer, and some lad was going into the toilet, and I went, "Who scored?" He went, "Bruno." And I was like, permission to strut like a bandied cock as I walked up towards the air bitch. He went, you said it. I says, I know. As if I did know, you know, but it was a very good prediction.
Good stuff. All right, Steve. I hear you were accompanying George, and you didn't come to the Irish club on Saturday. Instead, you went to get a free pint off Newcastle United. That was very kind of them, Steve.
Yeah, we did. We thought we'd take advantage of the offer that was on. It's not very often you get anything free from the football club, so we thought, you know what, we'll take up that offer. Realistically, I mean, a 12 o'clock kickoff's absolutely ridiculous, and trying to get into town for that for an early start must be a nightmare for an awful lot of people. It was awkward for us, I think. So George and I made the decision that we would meet just at the food bank and just have a slow toddle up into the ground. And I think we're glad we did, because it was red hot, wasn't it, George, on that walk?
Absolutely.
It like a short walk. I think we were already regretting putting a jacket on. But what was interesting, you're talking about the Bruno. When Bruno missed that effort, when he was through on the right-hand side, and he could have squared it over, I turned to George and I said to George, he'll redeem himself, George. He'll get a goal now. because look at him, because his attitude was, you know, he was horrified with himself, so deeply annoyed that he had fluffed it. And I said, you know what he's like, he'll get himself a goal now. And when he did score, George just nudged me. He goes, "You all right, lad? You all right?" And I was, "Yes, we were." Because George was agreeing with me. He was saying, "Yeah, I think he will. I think he will." You know, so we kept our eye on him. But as far as the game's concerned, I thought it was tactically a masterstroke from Howe, but I think it shows the intelligence of the squad to suddenly go into a back three stroke back five mode for a long period of the game. Alternate and allow Burn, as Mitch eloquently said, step forward and take advantage, and push on and really nullify Cole Palmer. But then got to be able to make the change. Because what we were seeing not late in back three, back four, back five. When we went down one side, it switched to a four sometimes. They were protecting each other. It moved into a back three when we're on the attack, but it was the way that flexibility and that movement was something good. But what was also important was how Bruno and, from my perspective, Tonali held that midfield together, because there was massive responsibility on those two, because obviously we've got two wide men and we've got a striker. And let's talk about Isak for a little while. I'll give him a mention. He doesn't look right. He doesn't look as though he's as fluid and has the movement. Doesn't seem to be making the runs. Whether that's because we're playing a slightly different style or whether he is carrying injury. But I thought that he held the line as best he could. And it just shows you that it's up to the other players around him to either feed him the type of pass or to work around where he is, and to change their style, because we're not getting a dynamic ball over the top. And I think that's possibly an injury, but also possibly because clubs are sussing out that, you know, you've got to lie a little bit deeper, because if you play that ball over the top, he will destroy you. So all in all, I thought it was fantastic. But then to be able to switch it and go to a flat back four, to move Murphy over, to move Murphy forward, to move Barnes over, to take out Gordon, and to bring Miley into midfield, I thought again that showed you that the team can adapt, the players can adapt, they're used to the personnel around them and knowing where they were. Mitch mentioned the atmosphere. The only criticism I have, and it's a very, very slight criticism, is that when we haven't got the ball, lads, don't panic on the terrace. There's no worry, there's no concern. And I had this conversation with somebody last night who, you know, really said that, you know, we were out of it all the way through the second half. We didn't play well. We didn't deserve this. We didn't deserve that. And I think that was just someone who had taken on board the sort of hoof it out sort of mentality that we get, and the anxiety, because it's only 1-0, that as the opposition have the ball and are stroking it around, we automatically think they're going to score, they're going to get 2, they're going to get 3. You know, our defence is crap, the midfield's all over the place, all that type of thing. But I think that comes from history. I think that comes from something of old, and it's not something that is necessarily true of the Eddie Howe squad and the Eddie Howe way of playing. A lot of people frustrated that we can suddenly go 10 men behind the ball. The only time I get frustrated, by the way, of 10 men behind the ball is when there's a corner to the opposition and we don't stick one of our fast lads on the halfway line in the old days. And this is George and I showing our age now, and you know, we're immediately pointing, get yourself up, send them up, man, send them up. This has been a constant with us, hasn't it, George? But brilliant performance, great result, and look where we are, look where we're sitting, look how the other results went our way. And it just turned into a fantastic weekend, beautiful weather, and I also had a very, very good late afternoon as well, because we spent, Tony and myself, Al spent about an hour or more with Ali and Colin Hall, who's Lewis's dad. So we had a great chat with him, talked about Lewis and football and life in general and Newcastle United. And it's just great to get a different perspective from a Newcastle fan who you haven't met, who is deeply a black and white and always has been, and telling us how he came about being a Newcastle fan and his love for the football club. And how well his son's doing and how proud he is. So that just tipped it over the edge, if you know what I mean, in terms of making it an absolutely brilliant day. So thanks very much, and great to meet you, Colin.
And just the crowd, Steve. The crowd, Steve, because obviously the crowd were, we've often said 12 o'clock kickoffs are a nightmare. You've mentioned it in your little chat there about the match, but yeah, it was a special atmosphere. I've heard one or two journalists, describe it as European night-esque. For the noise level.
Absolutely European-esque. I mean, flags everywhere. The sun was shining. Everybody seemed to be up for it. It really was like the sort of PSG nights and that type of thing, and going back. Reminded me a bit like the very first game of the season when we got into the Premiership, when we played Tottenham, and it was a sea of black and white. And yesterday was a sea of black and white. Everybody's in short sleeves and T-shirts, and it was a sea of black and white, flags and black and white tops, and it was everywhere. It wasn't just one end, and it just reminded me so much of that particular game where the atmosphere was great. And then the other one that was doubly like that was the Leicester City game when we beat them 7-1 to come up into the Premier League. So those were great days. And it's great to reminisce, and it's great to look back. But we've got a different squad now. We've got a different way that we play football. We're a totally different football club to those days. But the one biding thing that's stayed has been the support. When we're up for it, we really are up for it, Steve.
Yeah, we certainly are. Steve, because of the way that we're doing these shows, having a pre-record over the last couple of weeks, we didn't get a chance to ask you your opinion on the club crest. Everybody else has had their say, but what's your views on the announcement that was put out by the club prior to the Chelsea game that Newcastle are looking for the fans' opinions on what our new club crest should look like?
Only criticism I have would be the timing of it. I thought the timing of it coming out on Friday, and then I think there's only a consultation until Tuesday, and then on Wednesday they were going to have a meeting and they were going to have various people invited along to discuss it a little bit more generally. I thought the reasoning behind the badge change was suspect. It has the manufacturer written all over it. Whoever it is that makes the badge that gets stuck onto the shirt, and complications and this type of thing, and perhaps Adidas are using different factories. In terms of embroidery, it should make absolutely no difference whether it's a detailed embroidery or not a detailed embroidery, because it all comes down to how well you've got the render for your image, and how much thread you use. And if you use a nice bold, and you're doing a nice thick stitch, that's close together, you can get a beautiful embroidery. If you're using crap threads and you're using a poor render and you're using poor machinery, then you'll get a rubbish one, and that's what we've seen in the past. So to say that it's overcomplicated, I think it's only overcomplicated if they're going to go print-wise, or if they're going to go vinyl. And with the vinyl, as we've seen, they've gone flat colours, flat white, flat black. Not putting any colour into it. If they have gone colour in its print, that can be complicated if you're using vinyl, because you're either going to print direct or you're going to do a cut print, and there's a lot of weeding goes on. So from a manufacturing perspective, or an output perspective, that can be a little bit more difficult or a little bit more labour intensive. But to say that it's overcomplicated and that's why we want to change, I think, just be honest. From a branding and marketing perspective, they feel as though that a change would be good. If it's a change that gives us something really updated and modern, and it's on a par with, say, the Juventus one that Mitch and I talked about maybe 2 years ago, and we've had this conversation way back when the takeover happened, and we said to Mirad and Amanda, go for a new badge, go for something like the Juventus badge, sort of statement. Change of ownership, change of club. It's taken them 3 years. If it's something like that, great. But if we're just going to another seahorse, another castle together in a different format with a magpie, to me that's a cop out. So I would like to see them do something really, really progressive if they're going to change the badge at all. I love the Juventus badge, and I think it's a modern statement for a modern club. And I think they did it when they changed grounds. I'm not too sure. I might be slightly out on that on the timing. But if I believe what they're saying, it sounds like it's not going to be for next season. It's going to be the season after. So you're still going to be buying your shirts, and you're still going to have the existing badge on. A lot of people will be happy with a change, and there's a lot of people will linger on historical fact or historical fiction and say this is our badge and this is the way it should always be. We only had it since about 88, 89. We've had many badges. It did cause a lot of conversation in the pub yesterday, I must admit, and everybody, there was different opinions right across the group that I was standing with and sitting with. But that's what it's about. As long as we have proper dialogue and we have proper consultation, then great. But I suspect the decision's already been made, by the way.
Yeah, me too. Okay, it is that time of the show on a Friday night for you to head to the kitchen, pop to the toilet, or go outside if you're easily offended, because it's Tweet of the Week. I thought I'd start with a photograph, lads, which I saw on one of those Facebook pages. Look at that. Wow. Newcastle United, St. James's Park, back in the 1980s. Fantastic picture. Nice sunny day. You can just see in the distance there the Magpie Lounge, the breweries, of course, just out of sight, really, on the left-hand side. The old Gallagher toilets in the distance there, past the shrubbery. But yeah, wow. Amazing.
The old Gallagher bus station in the foreground as well.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. But I love it when you get stuff like that. Great to see those kind of photographs. Okay. Whenever my wife is upset, I let her colour in my tattoos. She just needs a shoulder to crayon.
Oh, God.
Don't worry, lads. They get better. Fuming. I've just been asked by a group of kids outside Tesco's about getting 20 Richmonds. Stupidly, I did. I got them a packet, handed them over, and you should have seen the abuse I got after them afterwards. The cheeky little gets. I told them next time you can get your own sausages. And old age is a thing. Last night I was in bed for 20 minutes when I heard the pizza guy cough. Then I remembered I came to my room for my wallet. And put all my dog and gear up for sale on eBay. I haven't had any bids yet, but there are 12 people watching. And breaking news, a man who took an airline company to court after his luggage went missing has lost his case, unfortunately.
Oh, dear.
And I'm sick of people knocking on my door looking for donations. I just had a woman from the sperm bank. Boy, did I give her a mouthful. And I got pulled over by the police at 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. The officer asked, where are you headed at this hour? I said, I'm on my way to a lecture about the effects of alcohol, abuse, smoking, and staying out late. He looked surprised and asked, oh, really? Who's giving a lecture at this time of night? I replied, my wife. And some bloke spreading rumours on the internet that I'm schizophrenic. Well, 3 can play at that game. We've got another celebrity food pick, lads. It's Bread Sheeran this week. Thank you. Thanks for that. And why don't you tell me when you climax, says the man to his wife. Well, you told me not to ring you at work.
Yeah.
And why does my chicken nugget look like a seal playing a saxophone? Excellent.
Yeah, as well.
I do like those. Probably took a good year or 2 to make this table as well, lads. And point of view, you've just fell over in a puddle at the petrol station. Don't say that we don't educate on this show. Cannonballs used to be stored above the ship in piles on a brass frame or a tray called a monkey. And in very cold weather, the brass would contract, spilling the cannonballs. Hence, very cold weather is cold enough to freeze the balls off a brass monkey.
Right.
Is that true, George?
No,
Oh, God.
sorry.
I knew the naval architect would disagree with that one. Okay, and this is a bee, lads. It pollinates a third of our food, lives in colonies with a queen, honeymaker and waggle dancer. Only honeybees die after one sting, friendly unless messed with. Bottom left, this is a wasp, skinny, good for nothing, basically a bee on meth. And in the bottom right-hand corner, this is a hornet. It's a wasp on steroids, usually so badass it doesn't even bother stinging you. Still, stay away from it. Good advice as the warm weather kicks in. Some more breaking news from the supermarkets, and manufacturer recalls faulty shopping carts with 4 functioning wheels. And 5 get salmonella after eating pies. It's another lacklustre effort from Enid Blyton. And in IKEA, they have confessed that their meatballs are made out of people that didn't find the exit. And baby on board. And Dad, why is my sister's name Rose? Because your mother loves roses. Thanks, Dad. No problem, bank holiday weekend sesh. And do you want to see a picture of Manchester United? Here we go. This was them against Brentford. And here's a new film coming out, An American Werewolf in Lundgren. And normal eye and an eye with glaucoma.
Oh,
Man.
Get out there and crap on your neighbour's garden. Thank you to Craig for that. He does send us some great stuff. And with inflation soaring, very in her own hand. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. And I love this. We've got a few signs this week, as always. This one, NHS, the Newcastle upon Tyne hospital van, has been christened Big Van Burn.
brilliant.
Hey.
Brilliant.
And this one, thanks, but do you have any dickless burger? Asks Jimmy Wilson.
Good old Jimmy.
Extra large hamburger with extra dick. Thanks, but no thanks. Butternut crinkle fries. Someone asking, isn't that the chap who plays Doctor Strange? And I love these reviews that we get every now and then. Iceland classic all-day breakfast. Tastes simply horrible. If I was starving and had to pick between eating this and eating my own arms, then I would be no good in a Mexican wave. Stop hating on lazy people. We didn't even do anything.
Yeah,
very good sign. And the rooftop terrace cafe is located on the top floor.
That's good.
Well
You
done,
don't say.
Well done, M&S. And this sign was on a lamppost this week. Have you seen my keys? Or Alan. I bet you a few people did as well, you know. And the wife asked me to label the plugs. It wouldn't be tweet of the week without a couple of Star Wars ones. Need money for new Death Star. And Ewok costume $49, Chewbacca costume $97. Dress up to mess with your neighbours' cameras. And teacher, if you've got £10 and ask your mum for another £10, how much will you have? The pupil answers £10. The teacher says, you don't know maths. And the pupil says, you don't know my mum. And Cy Phillips says, I came out of Asda this morning. There was a woman crying her eyes out. She'd lost all her holiday money. I felt so sorry for her. I gave her £50. I don't usually do that kind of thing, but I just found £2,000 in Asda's car park. And Lily Reinhardt. And in the end, the people you end up being closest to are the ones who send you memes while they're on the toilet. And this one, Scottish Patter sent this one. Me mate spent £500 on a limo for his wedding, and he's just found out the fee doesn't include a driver. He spent all that money and he's got nothing to show for it.
Oh, very clever.
Knew you'd like that one, Steve.
Aye.
And Colin McCormick, just cost me £1. Yes, £1 English to put air in my tyres. Used to be 20 pence. Suppose that's inflation for you.
Oh, God.
And Daniel Banks says, I like my vagina shaved, ladies. He got a reply from this woman. Then shave your vagina, Daniel. And just if you're out shopping this weekend, guys, 24 cans of Pepsi for £5 in Asda. It is a bargain, lads. And when you like women a little bit older, you can also pick up some of this. And speed limit enforced by sniper. Tuscan radar noises intensify. And this is what happens when you fart in a smart car. Last couple. Always warm your hands before milking the cow. Sound advice. And we don't do lookalikes anymore, much to people's annoyance. So people still try to sneak them in, but I've bent to public pressure. Here's a couple this week. One from Mitch. Cheers, Mitch. Still gets a laugh, doesn't it? Still gets a laugh. And this one was from Steve Hasty.
Yeah.
Just to restore equilibrium. George Harrison looking like Sandro Tonali. So there you go. Don't say we don't give the public what they want. There's a couple of lookalikes. NUFCmatters8092@gmail.com if you want to email them, or at Steve Wraith on X, and you can send us to them there and I'll pick them up. Jimmy Wilson is keeping us well supplied, but if you've got any that you think can make the cut, send them over and I'll feature them on the next Amigos. Just wanted to read this out as well. Peter sent us this. It's a little poem. So here is a little ditty for the throngs of magpies to sing against Chelsea. Bearing in mind, this is set to the soundtrack from AC/DC's Thunderstruck. Just something to get the juices flowing. All feedback is appreciated, especially if it makes the chant or song better. So here it is. Unfortunately, because we're doing pre-records, couldn't feature this last week and it came late. We're magpies and we're thunderstruck. There's lightning, there's thunder, and magpies are thunderstruck. The magpies roar with thunder and the goals are like bolts of lightning because we're thunderstruck. The crowd roars with thunder and the team rolls ever forward with thunderous momentum because we're thunderstruck. Feedback as always from the Magpie faithful. I'm not sure that kind of thing will catch on, Peter. I quite liked it, but very difficult to get something like that up and running. But good luck and thank you for sending it and asking for us to
pass that one on to Brian, shall we?
Yeah, pass it on to Brian, I think. Yeah. Okay, George, coming to you next, and just want to say, like, after the latest round of games, 2 games to go now. Liverpool, as we know, Premier League champions. Arsenal currently sitting in second place, 68 points, 33 goal difference. Newcastle now third. 10 goals behind Arsenal, 2 points behind Arsenal, but of course they face each other next weekend. Manchester City, 4th place, a goal better off than Newcastle currently, but a point worse off. Chelsea now in 5th place, 63 points, so 3 points behind Newcastle, and with a goal difference which is 4 worse off. And then Aston Villa, sitting in 6th place at the minute, level on points with Chelsea, but massively behind Newcastle and Chelsea and Manchester City on goal difference. They currently sit on 7+7 as their goal difference. Nottingham Forest, well, it's been a bad couple of weeks for them. They're now sitting on 62 points, though. Still only 4 points behind Newcastle in 3rd, but with a better goal difference than Aston Villa and only a point behind them. And, of course, they have to play West Ham, who found a little bit of form of recent times, but they've also got Chelsea on the last game of the season. So the question I'm going to ask is, where do you think we're going to finish, George? And does it bother you where we finish as long as we are in those Champions League places?
Yes, it does bother us. Because like the greedy little duck I am, I want Newcastle United to be up there at the top. Nowhere else, and we'll finish second. We've got 2 difficult games to play, but we've found an act of playing difficult games, thank goodness. And despite what Mr. Arteta said the other day, they've never been beaten this season of any of the teams in the top 6. That's what he said. Except we've beaten them 3 times. Not once, not twice, 3 times. And next week it'll be 4 times. That's how confident I am. Their recovery against Liverpool was good. But so nothing that would worry us. In fact, I've got a feeling that we've got a bit of a hex on them, and I suspect that they'll be more worried about us going there than the other way around. And the lads have never let us down this year, especially since the cup final. And I fully expect we to give them a real go and get something out of the game and pinch second place off them.
Okay. Mitch, where do you think we'll finish in the grand scheme of things? Do you think we'll finish, second, third, fourth, or even fifth?
If you told me 5 games ago we could go to Arsenal with an opportunity to overtake them on the second last day of the season, I'd have snapped your hand off and thought you were a little bit mental. But we've done it, and we'll have that. And Arsenal have started, they don't learn. They're such an elegant club. They started posting on social media after the draw against Liverpool. How many days since they've last lost to any one of the big 6? All right, now do Newcastle in there, shall you? Let's see how you do against us. How did you do against us in that semi-final that you were going to steamroll away in? They don't learn. They lost Mourinho, who I think, for me, he's been one of the key players in that run of form. I saw him come on and play as a false 9 against Leicester, and I thought he was absolutely magnificent. And to lose him without sending off, I think, was key. And what Arteta has shown is an immense ability to bottle it this season. He's bottled the Champions League, he's bottled the league, he bottled the League Cup against us. We have an opportunity to do something we've never done before, apparently, which is beat a team 4 times in one season. Bring it on. Bring it on. This is the freest of free hits, as far as I'm concerned, and we should go there and play with Gay Bandon and just do our own thing and get stuck into them again, because they're bottlers. They keep showing that they're bottlers. They've got such a high opinion of themselves. And who the hell are they? And we should have a higher opinion of ourselves, that we've done them 3 times this season already. There's no reason why we can't go there and do them again. And if we do that, I do believe we will secure second, which is just ridiculous. I can't even believe those words are coming out of my mouth. But then you couldn't say we haven't earned it. Like we earned the Carabao Cup, because we had to beat every bloody team in the top 6 to do so. And I would have taken an opportunity to do this with both hands. No problem at all. And I genuinely can see us finishing second because I believe Arsenal are bottlers.
Okay. Stu, where do you think we'll finish, and does it matter where we finish?
It always matters, because we want to finish as best as possible. And like George being a greedy little duck, second is in sight, but I'd still take 4th because we could finish 6th. But we go to Arsenal on Sunday with technically a free hit, because we get to that magic 69 points and we've got the Champions League irrespective. And I think if you recall, about 5 weeks ago, I said Aston Villa's the team you need to worry about, because they will win all their games, and they have done so far. And I can't see them losing to Man United or Tottenham in the next 2 games they've got. That'll put them to 69, but for the goal difference you mentioned, Steve, we get 1 more goal, we're above them. And last time I checked the rules, Chelsea and Forest play each other last game of the season, they both can't win. So as long as we get 1 win, we'll get it. And personally, I want us to finish at least 4th for the bet I've talked about all season. But if we're going on what Mitch says about Mourinho, who are they going to play up front? Trossard? I suppose. That shouldn't really worry us at all. And we've got more reasons to be worried about. They've got more reasons to be worried about us than us about them. And I think our players have the belief now as well. So, like George says, I think we can go there and win. And irrespective of goal difference, if we win our next 2 games, we finish second, and no one can take that away from us. But in an ideal world, I would want, for the reasons I gave about Man United not winning the Europa League, and I prefer Tottenham to win it, I would love Man City and Chelsea not to qualify for the Champions League because they're going to get a big bundle of cash for being in the Club World Cup Championship. We don't need them getting a double dose of that, but realistically, Man City are just about home and hosed. So if we get Chelsea out of it, if Forest can beat them last game of the season, it'll go between Forest and Villa for the 5th place. And you can make cases for both of them deserving it. And you can make plenty of cases for Chelsea not deserving it. So as long as we're in that quintet, I'll be happy. But the higher, the better.
Okay, Steve, same question to you.
I'm going to roll you back to that show that we did 8 games ago when we talked about what would happen in the last 10 games. And some of us said 21 points, some of us said 19. I said 26. I thought we would draw. I thought the 4 points would drop would be Villa and Arsenal. We lost at Villa, but we drew at Brighton. And we're still on target for 26 points. I said I thought we could finish second. And, you know, whether I was saying it flippantly or whether I was saying it with some sort of reasoning behind it, I'll leave that open to conjecture. But in my head, I was saying it because I thought we were good enough to do that. Looking at the results as they were, and I literally thought that it would be Villa and Arsenal would be the 2 games where we would get draws and drop those 4 points. And it's still on. It's still on, and I think we can. I think we're in Arteta's head. I think we're like a little earworm, and I think we'll go down there. And after listening to Bruno talking about, or the press talking about Bruno's pre-match speech that he made to the players, and about 2 cup finals, 3 cup finals, and how we're going to do it, and we want Champions League, etc., etc. And the way they came out the blocks, I think we showed that, and I think we'll do exactly the same next week. And I think that it sets us up nicely for an absolutely wonderful Sunday afternoon against Everton. And by then it could well be a party. I think we're gonna get second place. I honestly do. I'm looking at how we've managed to get where we are, and the part of the league that nobody looks at when you look at the league table. We're second in wins. We've won 20. Liverpool won 25, and Arsenal have only won 18 of their games. You look at the number of draws. This is where we've fallen down. We've only had 6 draws. Arsenal have had 14. They've only lost 4 games all season. We've lost 10, and yet there we are, sitting 2 points behind them. We've had an absolutely amazing run. And it shows the strength of character in the team. It shows what we've already talked about, the organisation ability, the way that the team has crafted the friendship group that there is among that squad. I think it's something that we've probably never ever witnessed in a team, because there's usually always cliques. I don't think there are cliques within this squad. They all seem to get on well. They all seem to respect each other. And they also all seem to be playing as a team. We haven't got one individual who's going out there trying to grab the glory. We've got 11 players. Whoever the 11 players who are on that pitch, they're all grafting for each other as well as themselves. And they're grafting for the 52,000 in the crowd as well when we're at home, and the 2,000 or 3,000 that are travelling. It's a togetherness that I've never witnessed over many years of watching Newcastle United, and it's a joy to watch. I'm looking at the and listening to what Stewie's just said, and I agree. I'd love to think that City and Chelsea would be the 2 that would drop out of the top 5 and be replaced by Forest and Villa. Just because it shakes the equilibrium up, it makes for an interesting Champions League next season. The thought of Man United or Tottenham in the Champions League, because one of them's going to do it, leaves a bitter taste. And I don't know what I'm going to be watching, if I do watch at all, the UEFA Europa Cup. Who would I be shouting for? Would I be shouting for Man United, or would I be shouting for Tottenham? Well, I certainly wouldn't be shouting for Man United. I'd rather shout for Tottenham than Man United. And that's no disrespect to our friend Melly. It's just the way it is, Pete. It's just the way it is. That final, is going to be one of two things. It's going to be an absolute dog's dinner, and it's going to show up the Premier League for what the team in 15th and the team in 16th are, or somebody somewhere is going to class it alongside the game we watched in midweek between Barcelona and Milan, and try and claim that it's the best European final that there's ever been, because there's goals everywhere. And if there are goals everywhere, it's because both of them are crap and cannot defend for love nor money. If there was some way of being able to reverse the clock and say we don't want either of them in the Champions League, let's just give the option back, and let's have Bodo Glimt or somebody else take that place, I would be happy with that. But I think we'll get second place, Steve. I really do. And I suppose after that, I shouldn't really be that bothered about who else makes the other places. I just think it's just going to be a great fortnight to come.
Yeah, certainly will. You just wanted to make a comment, didn't you, about the booing of Trent Arnold? Steve talking about Man U and Spurs just reminded me of Amorim, his interview last weekend, where he came out and basically said, "Well, might as well look for another manager, because it doesn't seem to be working." He more or less alluded to the fact that he might just leave. Maybe they should get somebody else, which is great preparation for a cup final. Anyway, it's not our problem. But yeah, Trent Arnold getting booed. What did you want to say about that?
Well, normally the mainstream media are falling over themselves, aren't they, to say how wonderful Liverpool are as a club, a community and fan base, etc. But they've collectively come out to defend Trent Alexander-Arnold. But for me, it's a generational thing. Because a little-known fact, I was at Steve McManaman's last game for Liverpool. It was against Wimbledon. I got a friend from London, Tony, one of the few Wimbledon fans, the old Wimbledon, that is. And he got tickets, and I went out to Liverpool to watch it in the Wimbledon end. And McManaman was leaving on a free to go to Real Madrid. And the Liverpool fans, they won 4-0. They cheered his name all game. And they took him up just before the end, and they applauded him. And he is one of their own. Yeah. But they thanked him for his service, and they understood the reason behind it. But now I think it's so easy to criticise people. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, whether you like him or don't like him, he hasn't down tools like Kabaya did for us. He hasn't went on strike to force a move. Every time he's put the shirt on, he's played really well for them. Yet some of their own fans were booing them on the game against Arsenal. And for me, it really is. I mean, I don't want to use the choice words that come at my head there, but it's not just disrespectful. It reflects on them as a club. Always unjust. They do injustice better than anyone. But the lad has won just about everything he could playing for them. And as I said, he's never once threw a game or decided he didn't want to play. He's come back from injury early, made himself available. He scored against Leicester, which just about clinched in the league. And I think for me, it's a sad indictment on society these days. If you look at if we can draw a comparison with Newcastle, we had to go through it probably 10 years before McManaman left. We had Beardsley, Gascoigne and Waddle all leaving in quick succession of each other. We booed them when they came back, except Beardsley didn't get booed. But they didn't stop playing for us, and we appreciated that. And I'd like to think that if the same comes to us, if our right back decides he doesn't want to play for us anymore, but gives his heart and soul for the shirt when he's doing it, that's football. That's how it is. And Liverpool have benefited from signing players less when the contracts have been run down. And for some, well, not for some reason, there's a clear reason, but because the tables have turned on them, they normally expect the warmth of their acolytes in the press and friends on talk sport, etc. But I think there's been a general disdain for how some of their fans behaved. And really, I think there's no place for it. And I've got no affinity to Trent Alexander-Arnold or playing for Liverpool or England, as you all know. But it just shows how sometimes this fallacy of Liverpool being the best fans in the land, it gets exposed. And yes, no more so than the game against Arsenal last weekend. I just wanted to say it because the difference with the same fans is a generation apart, or 26 years apart, it's a generation apart. Steve McManaman was applauded off the pitch with well wishes, and I was there. Thunderous round of applause he got, and they sang his name constantly. So I just thought I'd highlight that.
Yeah, you know what it is, Stu? We're a nation now on the terraces, if I can call them terraces, of pseudo accountants. We're all wrapped up in PSR, and we're all thinking of the bottom line. We're all thinking of, or if we'd sold them, they'd all been quite happy if they'd sold them and got 60 million quid for them or something like that. But we've turned certain sections of fans now just turned into accountants, and they're just looking at the pennies and they're thinking, oh, it's our money, it's waste. The lad's been there since he was 6-year-old, for goodness sake. He's put himself through the mill. He's worked to get into that team, and you're dead right. It does stink because there is an element that raise a flag and glorify, because Liverpool fans can do nothing wrong. They're doing something really wrong at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, Carabao Cup for me, when they booed the King, you couldn't hear their boos because the Geordie outsang them. The Geordie sang God Save the King, and you couldn't hear the Liverpool boos. And I thought it was quite funny when they were along our line. We had an Italian, we had a Swede, we had two Brazilians all singing God Save the Queen, the King as hard as they could. So puts it into perspective for me.
Yeah, certainly does. Okay, time for one of these. The day I met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle, past or present. And Steve Bennett, thank you for this one. He says, the day I met the man that laid on Kevin Keegan's debut goal versus Queen's Park Rangers, Imre Varadi. Thank you, Steve, for that. And yes, Imre is a regular visitor to St James's Park these days. And fantastic photo that is. If you've got one, nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com is the place to send your picture, and we'll feature you on the show. Okay, quite a shorter show tonight as it's a pre-record. We are doing this on Monday, so Newcastle United do travel away to Arsenal in their final away game of the season on Sunday. It's a 4:30 kickoff at the Emirates Stadium. It is live on Sky Sports. The tickets are in digital format for those people going to the game. They were sent out on Monday. Ticket forward and opens at 4:30 on Thursday and ends at 11:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. If you are intending to forward your ticket, then don't download the ticket, otherwise it'll need to be reissued, which is an absolute nightmare. Newcastle are going in search of a fourth victory and clean sheet against Mikel Arteta's side this season after the 1-0 Premier League win at St James's Park and the 2-0 win in London and 2-0 win on Tyneside in the two-legged Carabao Cup success. Early team news, Lewis Hall, Matt Targett both miss out, and the status of Joe Linton, Kieran Trippier and Joe Willock will have been revealed by Eddie or not at the press conference, which will have taken place on Friday. We do know at this early stage of the week that Mikel Merino is suspended after his dismissal against Liverpool, whilst Declan Rice could be doubtful after missing Sunday's 2-2 at a draw at Anfield with an unspecified injury. Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Magalhaes and Takeru Tomiyasu won't be involved. Kai Havertz could be available, which will be interesting. The referee for this match has been announced at the time of recording the show. It's Simon Hooper. The Wiltshire-based referee makes a 5th appearance of the season in the middle for Newcastle. He began with defeats at Chelsea and Brentford, then took charge of Newcastle's 2-0 win at Old Trafford and the 2-0 Carabao Cup second leg success against Arsenal at St James's Park. And then VAR, it is Michael Salisbury. If you're staying in the Toon to watch the game, pop into the Dog and Parrot Freight in the big market or Countries in the big market, and you'll be able to catch the full match there. Any real disruptions, make sure you check out with LNER. And Piccadilly line closures all weekend on the Tube, King's Cross, St Pancras to Uxbridge and Osterley. District line closures all weekend, Turnham Green to Ealing Broadway. And DLR closures all weekend, Stratford International to Woolwich Arsenal and Poplar to Beckton. Those are the things to look out for if you are travelling down to London. No Toon tipster this week, but we have got Toon Stato.
Hello there, we are almost in the Champions League, almost there within touching distance. 2 games to go. The first one is the last away game of the season, away to Arsenal. Actually, the last time Newcastle lost their last away game of the season was back in 2018 at Wembley, away to Tottenham, and I was there at the stadium. They beat us 1-0 with a goal by Harry Kane. Since then, 6 seasons, 4 wins and 2 draws in the last away game of the season. Now, the win against Chelsea was the 20th of the season, and only Newcastle and Liverpool actually have reached this milestone this season. And the last time Newcastle reached 20 wins in a season was back under Sir Bobby Robson in 2002-2003. And we have done it in total only 5 times prior to this season. When it comes to players, Sandro Tonali scored his 6th home goal for Newcastle, all of them coming at the Leazes end. On the other hand, Harvey Barnes has not scored lately, but his all 8 goals for Newcastle in the Premier League at home have come at the Gallgate end. So this will be very, very interesting to see when they will break the duck on the other side of the pitch. Of course, it's not going to be on Sunday against Arsenal since we play at their stadium. Now, against Arsenal, for the first time in their history, Newcastle can do 4 wins against them in a single season, which is peculiar since lately our last away win in the Premier League against them was back in November 2010 when Andy Carroll scored. Of course, we beat them in the Carabao this season at their stadium 2-0. We also beat them twice at St James's Park. We also beat them last season with that famous goal by Anthony Gordon. And basically, Eddie House has Mikel Arteta's number. So, a big, big game on Sunday. The job is almost done. Let's see what happens away the lads.
Thanks, Andre. We'll have him back on again for the final game of the season. Always good to get the update. He's become a little bit of a cult hero amongst the social media brigade on Instagram and TikTok. People bumping into us at the match going, who is that guy who does the Toon Stato? We love hearing him. And I think people find his voice rather soothing, which doesn't say a great deal for us. But anyway, George, yes, this is a huge game. We've all touched briefly on it today already, but let's have a little bit more of a concise look at it. Merino will be out. Declan Rice, we're not sure on what his injury was and why it kept him out, but they've been operating without a striker. I get the feeling from what you were saying earlier and what Mitch was saying earlier, though, that their own arrogance could be the undoing of the Gunners this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. They still, despite what's happened in this season, come across as being entitled, and they haven't learned. The only thing that I've heard today that makes me think hard is that Havertz might be playing. What a nasty bit of work he can be. So but even that might work in our favour. Neil's right. Merino was playing really well as a false 9, and for him not to be there at all is something of a bonus for us. So I'm still optimistic that that the real Newcastle United turns up, then we've nothing to fear. And indeed, they'll be more worried than we will. So I'm still convinced that we'll come home with something from that game, and I think it'll be a victory. 1-0, dirty goal maybe, but I think we'll win 1-0.
Okay, 1-0 win for George. Mitch, how do you see this game going?
Well, obviously, in the absence of Scunny Paul, I'd like to give people some travel advice. If you're looking for parking near the Emirates, use what 3 words? Whinging bottle jobs, or you'll find it at Crying Pie later. We've got that Lego head on ice. He's an absolute arsehole, and I would love to shove it right up him. I'd love to go there and turn their arrogance into their weakness. It's throughout the fan base talking about prior to the bloody Champions League semi-final about how every time there's been a new Pope, Arsenal have won a cup. Well, that's not happening either, is it? Talk about clutching at straws, and some of the way they go on, and some of the bloody Arsenal fans' TV lot and the melodramas every week about something. The way that they've had the press pretty much trying to sell Isaac to them, and letting them think that that's even vaguely a possibility. And I would love to see Isaac snap out of whatever little lull he's been in and bang a couple into the back of the net at the Emirates at the weekend. We've got no to lose. Like I said, it's the freest of free hits. We can go there and do whatever we want. Nobody predicted we'd be this deep into the race for Champions League. Not just for the Champions League, for second bloody place. It's absolutely crazy, but it's because of the form and the way we played. And the work that we put in as a squad and as a unit, and I include the fan base in that as well. We go there and hold our heads high and act with the decorum that we can, and don't rise to any bait. And same on the pitch. Bernard's got a point. If Havertz was playing, he's a nasty piece of work who's not frightened to leave an elbow or a foot in somewhere. But that might work in my favour too, because he's stupid enough to get caught doing something on VAR every now and again as well. We've got no to lose. Just go for them and get into them and get them riled up, because I tell you what, they can't handle it. They don't like it up them, Captain. They don't like it up them.
Okay, so your prediction, Mitch, and the Dice's prediction.
We'll have the dice first, and the dice says 1-2. And I'm going to back the dice. I'll take it with the odd goal and 3 myself.
Fantastic. Okay, Stu, how are we feeling about the game of the weekend? And prediction from you is always 3-1, but we always like getting an alternative prediction off you.
Well, when I was talking about the difference between Liverpool at the start of last season to the Chelsea game last weekend, how far we've come, I'll tell you now, Arsenal would take a draw against us. And Arsenal fans would take a draw against us, because they are now, with all the bluster they're coming out with, they are now fearful that we, not just us, but if we beat them, Man City will overtake them as well. And from being, we're going to do the double, or we're going to definitely win the Champions League, we're clear a second, we can focus on the Champions League, to finish 4th would be a right kick in the stringers for them. So I think we have got this cup final mentality we talked about against Chelsea. We know how to play the big games now. We know how to channel that aggression and energy correctly. You know, we don't get over nervous and too hyper. They know how to just let it out the bottle slowly. And this now becomes another cup final for us. And I honestly think Newcastle will go there and win it. This will be their cup final. They go there, win it, and do everything they can. This will be the last game this season. They'll have to leave everything on the pitch. And then the week after, they're at home to Everton. They can have a proper Geordie celebration. And funny enough, Steve mentioned the 7-1 against Leicester. That Everton game has the hallmarks of that happening if we beat Arsenal. But I'm with George. 1-0 to the Geordie boys. Wouldn't that be great getting sang around the Emirates?
All right, I've gone for a 2-0 win. I think we'll have another 2-0 win. Steve, what about you?
I was going to go for a 2-0 win as well, Steve, funny enough. simply because history does sometimes repeat itself. I'm looking forward to the game like everybody else. It's going to be an absolute corker from our perspective. We really have got into their head. As Mitch says, the meltdown among their fan base is second to none in the Premier League this season. It really is. I mean, they've set the benchmark, haven't they? They've absolutely set the benchmark for being pricks. I mean, the way that they go on is just phenomenal. If there was ever an advert for social media to be banned, then it would be, you'd stick Arsenal TV on and go, there you go. That's the reason why we shouldn't have fans talking about football anymore if they're all turned out like that. Thankfully, they don't. Thankfully, most fans of most clubs seem to be quite level-headed, but that last have taken it to the far ends, haven't they? Over the last couple of years, it's a self-entitlement. And then when you see the meltdown after the game, it becomes rather entertaining. Actually, it's quite funny because they're all full of it, what they're going to do to everybody before the game, and then they're pointing the finger and blaming everybody but themselves after the game. When I say everybody but themselves, I mean everyone but themselves as fans, because they don't get behind their team. They're too willing to absolutely throw a brick back at their owners, their manager, their players. I'll tell you what was funny during the week from a European perspective. We talk about European football coming to Newcastle. We witnessed last week something that at the start of the season started to get rammed down our throat. We're still getting rammed down our throat at Christmas, and even after into the turn of the new year. And it was how wonderful Arsenal are when it comes to set pieces. They have a set piece genius at their football club, and everybody was talking about it. It was on Match of the Day, it was on Sky TV, TNT, and there were profiles on the guy who does their set piece maneuvers. We thought from all the headers that were getting in the box, etc., from corners and free kicks. Midweek, we resorted to Stoke City, and we resorted to party, trying to throw the ball into the box. That's literally all they had.
Do you not mean unnamed Premier League footballer age 31?
I do. Apparently, allegedly, but I mean, this is where they've got to. This is the meltdown. The meltdown isn't just among their fan base, but it's among their coaching staff. If you were in a Champions League semi-final, and you've got all the tactics at your disposal and all the knowledge, and you resort in the last half an hour to just giving a player the ball and saying, just going shouting from the touchline, do a Rory Delap, because that's basically what we're doing, And Tony Pulis must be sitting watching that at home going, even I wouldn't have done that. Even I wouldn't have thrown the ball into the box at that moment. I would have gone for a short one and then dropped it deep. But this is what's coming. And this is what's entertaining, I suppose, about Arsenal and the meltdown of their fans. So, bring it on. We'll be second place the next time we do the show, fans. The fans, all Newcastle fans, will be sitting there going, as Stewie said, party time against Everton. And I'm looking forward to talking about that the next time we meet up.
Okay, going to finish the show with one of Elliot's classics. It's sad news. The man who invented soothers died today. There will be no coffin at the funeral.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus.
We will be back live next week, but we won't be back on Friday. We will be back on Wednesday, the 21st of May at 5:00. That will be our look ahead to the Everton game. We'll know where we are and how we're facing Champions League football, where we're going to finish in the league. We'll be looking at that. The following week after that, it should almost be back to normal. I would hope anyway. Round about Friday the 30th, Saturday the 31st, I should be getting back to some kind of normality. So we might have an Amigos on the Saturday or the Sunday, but I've got to confirm that with the lads. But for now, we are going to be live Wednesday the 21st, 5 o'clock. That's what we'll go for, 5 or 6. I'll set the time. I'll check with the lads because all the lads have said, well, Mitch and Steve can do it. I've asked Stu if he can, and then we'll get back to everybody, George as well. But thanks for tuning in. Let's hope we get a good result this weekend. See you next week. Thanks to the lads. I'm going to play out with the ads. Take care, lads.
Good to see everybody. Thanks for watching.
Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email, info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sport Social Podcast Network. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to support the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, and click share to your social media. You could also take out a monthly membership or an annual membership at nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. For the lifetime membership, you can pay £25 and get a pen, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a badge and a keyring and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Some events coming up, 27th of June, 2025, the end of season party. Beresford, Howie and Watson will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre with Joe Allen in aid of North Tyneside Age UK. You can get your tickets for that one from nufcmatters.co.uk or from Woucher. No Covers takes place at the Clooney. That's on the 29th of June, midday till 3:45, and tickets are £10 from theclooney.com or newcastlelegends.com. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, takes place on the 9th of August, 10 till 4 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Come and be some of the cast and crew in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Tickets from nufcmatters.co.uk. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place on Friday the 23rd of January 2026 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. You can get tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And Bad Manners are back in the Northeast at the O2 City Hall, Friday the 30th of January 2026. Tickets from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainer's book, signed by Les Ferdinand, available from nufcmatters.co.uk.